Otherwise, your understanding is not very clear. So without any what you call doubt, you keep looking at the dependent origination, each factor. So when you are mindful, you can see always two factors work together. That is why it is called dependent origination. One does not arise without any support from another. So two things, two factors arise. For instance, I mentioned this morning, I didn't have time to explain. I will, throughout this meditation sessions, I will explain as much as possible how when ignorance arises, volitional formation of sankhara arises. When ignorance disappears, sankhara disappears. They both happen almost concurrently. Therefore, you have to be very mindful to see both. One arising, the other arises. Yes, mindfulness is very important in all cases.
Okay.
Okay, now one short question for expecting short answer. Yes,
Or
sir.
maybe we can make the announcement about.
Yeah, you make the announcement.
Okay, so I just want to let everyone know that starting tomorrow morning, the 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. morning sessions, Bhante G will be using what was before a Q&A period to give lectures on dependent origination. So we'll still have the Metta mindfulness meditation period, but before that and after that will be Bhante G lecturing on dependent origination. So that's the 10 a.m. morning sessions. The 7 p.m. Evening sessions will be just as they were before. There'll be Q&A oriented, question and answer oriented. And of course, dependent origination questions are welcome just as much as how to practice mindfulness meditation or any other thing that's on your mind. So.
Okay. Let us begin our meditation now. And we start with our metta. We may close these pictures.
Right.
May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere, neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. With this very powerful thought of metta, wishing all living beings, all all beings who are suffering from this COVID-19 and all those who are helping them, supporting in many ways, doctors, nurses, and hospital staffs, and those who support them, that like social workers, uh, research researchers, research scientists who are trying to find a vaccine for this, and all others. We all we want to wish all of them and everyone to be free from pain, suffering, and liberate from this agonizing sickness. And then we focus our mind on our breathing, and exclusively we have to pay attention exclusively to our breath without thinking of what we have been doing before, what we are going to do after. And then when we pay attention to the breath without verbalizing, conceptualizing, letting the breath flow in and out, noticing inhaling as inhaling, exhaling as exhaling, and the pause between inhaling and exhaling, and then your feeling of breath, perception of breath, volition, that is your deliberate attention to the breath, and consciousness. All these five, such as breath, feeling, perception, thoughts, and consciousness, all of them are changing exactly as the breath is changing. And then mind becomes calm, relaxed, peaceful. The body becomes calm, relaxed, and peaceful. Mind becomes calm, relaxed, and peaceful. All these three, the breath, feelings, and the mind, all relax. And then our hindrances subside, greed, anger, restlessness and worry, sleepiness and drowsiness, and doubt. All this will subside. Then we gain concentration with metta, loving friendliness, compassion, and letting go of whatever is arising. Then joy, happiness, and concentration arise. When these arise, the mind becomes even calmer and more settled, more peaceful, and very, very deep, subtle changes. Ordinarily, we can never notice them, but in a very deep, concentrated state, we are not like a vegetable. Even in that state, we are fully aware, and since we are practicing mindfulness as the source of our main practice, we will be able to see very subtle changes in all our body, mind, feelings, perceptions, consciousness, and thoughts. And then we stay still, calm, being aware of all of them. dukkha pattaca nidukkha, bhaya pattaca nibhaya, soka pattaca nisoka, hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. With this very wonderful, wholesome, boundless thought of metta, once again let us wish and hope that all those suffering beings be free from suffering. May all those who are helping them in many ways be also free from suffering. And may those who are working very hard to find vaccine may soon come up with solution, find something. All those who are financing these projects, all those who protect them in many ways, be well, happy and peaceful. Now friends, we can start our discussion. If you have any question, I'd like to spend the rest of our evening session answering your questions.
Bhante, can you explain the difference between Sakyaditi and Conceit?
Satyaditi and conceit?
Sakayaditi.
Sakayaditi. Sakayaditi and conceit. Sakayaditi is believing in permanent self somewhere in our either body, feeling, perception, thought, and consciousness. It is just a belief. Ditti means view. Sat means is. Kaya means body. Believing such permanent entity in the body, which include all the aggregates. That is Sakaya Ditti. Conceit or mana is very subtle. Even after attaining never eternal stage, the I consciousness, asmi mana, conceit that I am, exist. That exists in a very subtle way that the one who has this does not know where that person has this notion, or I am I am consciousness, or view I am. Only when one sees without any doubt the impermanence, that person can get rid of the last remaining fetter, conceit, with, along with the destruction of ignorance. So long as one is ignorant of where and when can that person find I, my mind, that person still is not fully attained enlightenment. I mentioned Khemaka Sutta as an example. Venerable Khemaka had attained Anagami state. And still he had the sense or notion of I am lingering in his mind. He himself did not know it very how it arises. But when one day he explained his own predicament to other fellow monks, while he was explaining to them, he himself focused his mind on the aggregates one by one. As he was explaining, he himself paid total mindful attention to each aggregate, and then finally he was able to get rid of that notion of I am and attain full enlightenment, along with his audience, other monks who were listening to him. What he did finally, he intensified his practice of impermanence. And then this notion disappeared. So he has overcome a notion of self, sakkaya ditthi, view of self. He has overcome by attaining stream entry. Now he is in the third level of enlightenment called anagami. But therefore, even though he has overcome the view of self, notion of I am continues to linger in his mind. So, difference between I consciousness or asmi mana and sakkaya ditthi is asmi mana is subtler than sakkaya ditthi, view of self. Okay.
Bhante, you mentioned a couple days ago that the first jhana, people experience wonderful things. Something good happens that they never expected, or they think of someone and that person calls them. Are these miracles?
No. Compared to ordinary concentration, ordinary peaceful state, you may think that this is a miracle. No, it is not a miracle. It is when you train the mind, to overcome certain things and develop certain things. And this is exactly what the Buddha said in Pottapada Sutta in Digha Nikaya. By training, you overcome certain things, and by training, you attain certain things. So when you do that, you experience something that you had never experienced before, but that is not a miracle, that is the achievement, the results of your training. Another question?
Is upekkha attained only in the fourth jhana, or can one experience at least glimpses of it before the fourth jhana?
Surely you experience it in the third jhana. Third jhana formula itself is called Pitya Chiraga Upekha Gojavirati Satoda sampajano sukhancha kayana parisamvedeti yantang arya achikkanti upekkako satima sukha vihariti. Even the third jhana, you begin to experience upekha. When you attain the fourth jhana, that upekha purifies along with mindfulness. That is why in the fourth jhanic jhana, Buddha said, upekha sati parisuddhin chatutta jhanam upasampajyarati. Upekha sati parisuddha means purity. The both upekha and sati, mindfulness and equanimity, are purified in the fourth jhana. In the third jhana, you have upekha, it is not purified. It is when you have given up or overcome piety, joy, then upekha arises, but it becomes purified in the fourth jhana. Yeah, another question?
Bhante, in the Fena or Foam Sutta, the Buddha compared consciousness to a magic trick or maya. How should we understand this?
Plena Pindupa Sutta in Samyutta Nikaya. Yes, he said, Mayupamaja Vijnana, consciousness is like a magic. Actually, this is a very deep, profound state or, of mind. When you imagine magic, you don't see magic, but you see a very skillful person who can move various objects in many different ways very quickly. That gives you an impression that there is something. The other day, somebody sent us a horse, picture of a horse. A young man and young woman played in such a way, woman's hair, she turned to us, her head, and then she bent down. Then her hair looked like a horse's tail. And another man stood behind her, and he pretended to be riding a horse. From a distance, they both look exactly like a horse. It is like a magic. There was no horse. Similarly, people can, our consciousness play such a role that we think consciousness is something that exists. Consciousness does not exist. Consciousness arises when two things come together. Senses and sensory object. For instance, when eye and visual objects come together, consciousness arises. When they falls apart, when they separate, there's no eye consciousness. So when two eye and visual objects come together, consciousness arises, and they become conscious. Consciousness function is separating two things. Is called Vijayanartha Vinya. That is seeing or knowing things, knowing the distinction between two things is a function of consciousness. But when two things disappear, that consciousness is not there. And therefore, consciousness is compared to magic.
Bhante, are these powers that a person acquires at the first jhana called siddhis? Are siddhis the same as what in philosophy is called serendipity?
No, no, no. In the first jhana, you cannot attain siddhis. Siddhi, according to Buddhist tradition, you have to train yourself in a very special way after attaining the fourth jhana to develop siddhi or iddhi. If the person does not want to go that way, after the fourth jhana, the person used that purity of mindfulness and equanimity and all the qualities of fourth jhana to focus his pure, clean mind toward the destruction of defilements, asava, the influx. The formula says, evam parisuddhe pariyodhate anangane vigutupakulese mudubhute kammane tite ananjapate asavakhaye jnanaya chittang abhininnameti. Thus purified, pure, clean, free from idiosyncrasies, steady, pliable, soft and gentle mind is focused on the destruction of influxes. That is the attainment of full enlightenment or arahanthood. Either you use the fourth jhana to attain arahanthood, or if you want to play with all other things, additional, to have some additional experience, you develop that mind to gain supernatural powers, which are called id. That, according to sutras, Pali tradition, can happen only after the fourth jhana. From the first jhana, you cannot do that because your mind is still relatively gross, not very refined. Okay, another question.
Bhante, is there consciousness when one sleeps, specifically dreaming?
Yes, actually, in dreaming, you are conscious but not fully awake. I say conscious because your mind sees an object in dreams. Therefore, to that extent, to that moment, you are conscious. And as soon as the dream disappears, then you may fall back to sleep, and then your consciousness is also does not function.
Speaking of which,
Huh?
Speaking of which,
Speaking of what?
Speaking of sleeping in dreams.
Yeah, yeah. I had one day I had a very frightening dream. I began to whimpering, whimpering, and Brian came from his room and asked me whether I was all right. And then I became fully awake. Then I became more conscious. But if I fell asleep, that consciousness also goes to, consciousness disappears.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready to wrap it up?
Right. Okay, we want to wind it down. And in closing this session, our purpose of this meditation, metta, and discussion, all these things to arouse our awareness of what is happening around the world these days, and very wonderful, peaceful state of mind. We all want millions, or not only few people attending our discussions and meditation, but all of us in the whole world must come together as one single powerful body, sharing friendly feelings, metta feeling, and wishing all those who are suffering and all those who are trying to help them be free from suffering and come back to normal, ordinary life and continue their daily activities as usual and live long in very good health. That is our purpose, that is our wish. We want to repeat this as long as we can with the same intention. Our wish, I think, is very, very powerful. We are united, we are one, and we are in unison. Want to wish all these people to be free from suffering. And this COVID-19 virus wipe out from the whole world. I want now to wish everybody